Good. I'd like to open the meeting for the Finance Committee for the Town of Carver, March 19th, 2019. We're running about 10 minutes late tonight because we had surprise pizza. So, with
Working
that, we'll
meeting.
get started. We don't have a flag in here for the pledge, so. Any public comment? Seeing none. We're going to move on to the warrant. Tonight's discussion is going to be the articles in the warrant that the Finance Committee votes on and is then given to the Board of Selectmen, which will be at 7 o'clock. Articles that we have not discussed so far. I think we start off with Article 4, am I correct?
That's the way it appears to me.
Supplemental appropriations for fiscal 2019. I'm sorry. I have got a copy of it. Do I have I can share?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is generally a cleanup article. In years past, as John Carter can recognize, this thing used to be half a page to a page long of articles that we use to balance the budget halfway through the year. Given our financial procedures, we no longer have to do that. We do have one item on here. I'm actually going to be changing the amount. It is $15,745. This is going to be for the enterprise fund for the Cranberry Village well. And with that, they have a savings account, which is called retained earnings under enterprise funds.
I'm sorry, 15,000?
745. And with that, they need to replace the pump controller and drive this year, plus some additional small items. The pump repair is going to be at least $12,000 of the 15. And they've got some other chemicals they need to purchase with that, and some other balancing and some other utility bills with that, which amounts to the $15,745. So what happened is, in this article, when this was approved at town meeting last year, is that we didn't really include any capital cost in here, but the retained earnings will fund the capital cost. So it's, in essence, coming out of their savings account to fund their operating account, which pays their capital costs is down there. And this is just for Cranberry Village. It's a set-alone, self-sustaining program. So they're taking surplus money that they had from previous years and paying for this capital expense. But again, that new dollar is going to be $15,745.
How much will they have left in that account?
Top of my head, it's well over $100,000.
Is an enterprise fund allowed to have a reserve account?
Yes. It's called retained earnings.
Oh, so
So they can have that, and they can have it to a certain level. They can't have it for millions of dollars unless it's a multi-million-dollar operating budget. So you can only retain so much of it. So what the selectmen did a few years ago is, because that retained earnings was getting higher, they actually reduced down the rate that they were charging the residents there, or the Cranberry Village. Cranberry Village took that savings in rate and went out and redid all their water lines, because we only pay for the water. And they fixed a whole bunch of leaks. So guess what? When you fix the leaks, you're drawing less water,
Right.
which means your revenue goes down. But because there was a surplus in there, we've been kind of underfunding this to use some of the surplus.
Draw it
in there.
down.
Yeah.
What's the current balance in the surplus?
Like I said, I don't have the top number, but it's well over $100,000.
Is there a cap for that?
There is no specific cap. It's more of a reasonable cap
Okay.
that's in there.
And how much do they put into the account every year?
So this
refund it.
year, when we approve it, we're going to be approving a budget of $30,000, which was pretty much what it was approved for last year, at $30,000.
So I'm just trying to understand it.
Yeah, it's a small number for
Yeah.
this whole thing.
I'm just wondering.
But because the pump's $12,000, then it's like, oh, well, we gotta go this way to make it happen.
Any further discussion? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Make a Motion to approve Article 4 is written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Article 4 as written. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the next article is Article 5, which is the allocation of free cash. There have been some changes on this since you last saw it. At the request of the school committee chairman, the superintendent and I met earlier this week with our financial staff. We've made some modifications to the free cash article that is going to solve the dilemma the school committee was faced with coming up with $41,000.
This was the art teacher.
Half-time art teacher, yes.
Okay.
So what we have here is under item numbers, well, let me just go through this. Item number 1 is the school town special education reserve, which is now at $104,000. That was $125,000. It's been reduced down to $104,000 to free up $21,000. The townwide snow and ice has been reduced from $150,000 down to $130,000 to free up $20,000. That $41,000 is now in item C, which is operations and maintenance, field maintenance and supplies for FY20.
Okay.
So that $41,000 was in the school budget that they approved the other night in their expense account to maintain the fields. As we all know, we've moved to consolidate the O&M department, and with that, the superintendent is going to be recommending that $41,000 is no longer needed for the school budget because it's going to be funded out of here for this year, and that at the next school committee meeting, the $41,000 that was originally allocated for field maintenance will now go to fund the art teacher. And that will allow the school committee to maintain a balanced budget based upon the town's financial management policies. That $41,000 is funded for FY20 through free cash. When we get to FY21 next year, we're going to have to find a new source for that, and most likely we'll be looking to run that through our townwide capital account, since not only are we maintaining the buildings, we're also maintaining all the fields and athletic components that we put up too.
Right.
So that it would come into that. Again, I'll deal with that next year when we go through the budget process. But this solves the school's dilemma by finding that additional $41,000 and reallocating that expense, which is no longer in their budget, and using those revenues to fund the art teacher. And at the end of the day, everybody gets what they need at that point. So that's the new item from what you've seen before. Moving forward in
Can I
item...
just ask a
Sure.
question?
Mhm.
So, I understand we're gonna do that, but we have enough money now for snow and ice removal?
Yes, we will. Yes, we
And
will.
then the special education reserve, I thought, if I remember correctly at our meeting with the school last time, that they basically go to max that out each time, depending on what we get mid-year. What will happen if we get a child that needs to go to a specialized school?
They'll
Or is
have to
that-
figure it out within their budget.
Okay, so we'll
Yep,
over
so
there.
they own the issue,
Okay.
and they'll have to figure it out, so...
And they're willing to take that responsibility?
That is correct. That is correct. That'll be their issue to solve within their budget, with or without that money.
And the 41K they need for the art teacher, is that 41K total salaries plus fringe? Or is that just salary?
I believe it's salary and fringe. Yes, it was salary and fringe. I think it was 41 and change.
Okay.
And they found the change too.
They did.
Was that a part-time teacher? That was a part-time position?
My understanding, it was a half-time teacher.
It's a full-time teacher
It
who
is a
was being
full-time.
cut to half.
To be cut out.
Oh, but it's gonna end up a half-time.
It'll remain
No, no,
a full-time
full-time
teacher
teacher.
with this move.
The 41,000 was to cover the half-time.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, so it was full-time, they were gonna cut it, this now,
This
let's just
saves
stay
the
full-time.
full-time position.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
You.
Just a question on if we're setting some kind of precedent now for free cash use of one-time funds. Yeah, the 41,000 was originally in the school budget as a maintenance issue, but because of, how you want it, lack of revenue, too much cost, because of contract increases, we're now short money $41,000. So essentially, we're paying one-time monies to go fund a reoccurring position.
Correct. Which is not something that we normally do, and so we're looking at it as a one-year solution, and then from there, building it into our town-wide capital cost. So I do not ever foresee this $41,000 ever being in free cash again. Because again, sometimes we'd have free cash, sometimes we don't. We're always striving to have 3% of our budget, which is what DOR recommends, which, comes out to $1.2 million. But there'll be some years where we won't have that. Next year, we're gonna have less free cash. 2 years ago, we had more because we were getting the revenue from the additional bonds that we had. So that is a risk in doing that.
But what stops other departments from having the same scenario in a future year when they've spent too much and they need money from free cash? We set some kind of...
Every year's different, and hopefully in future years, they will be told no. This was kind of a solution that the superintendent and I worked on to try to solve a problem. It's not something that I would have normally recommended on my own, but it was trying to figure out what is the solution to solve the problem that was created by the school committee with their 3-2 vote at the last meeting.
And sorry, one last question. Has free cash has been certified at 1.2 million?
Yes.
So this really becomes a rob Peter to pay Paul situation for this year.
For this year, that is a fair way of looking at it, correct.
But how do we stop it for next year? I don't object to doing it this way, but John's 100% right. What happens when there's a new emergency and it comes in the form of the police department or the library or,
Just say no.
it doesn't always work.
Yeah, I think, as just mentioned, is you just say no, and I think that this is being couched as a one-time, one-off item that has never been done before, and we don't anticipate doing it in the future.
Especially in scamming.
Can it happen again? Of course it can. I wouldn't, I would not be bringing this up in the first round of budget talks on anything. This is just at the 11th hour this happened. And this is the best resolution that we think we can come up with. But, at the end of the day, it's up to the finance committee to say, okay, and the board of selectmen to do the same, and then for town meeting to, state whether or not that's a fair solution. And also for the school committee too.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the chairman, again, he directed the superintendent to work with me on this. My expectation is that that he will be, looking to modify his original vote from last meeting to take this into account.
I'm just concerned about the precedent that it sets, that's all. I don't disagree, and I know that at the last school committee that I watched, it was pretty well attended, let's put it that way. And it was the importance of the position. And I agree with it. I think that, we don't offer enough of the extra stuff. But there comes a point where we need to get to a place where this is within your budget, this is it. Just like we live within our budget. But I don't have a problem with this year, me personally. I just don't want to see this become the excuse that's used next year, well, you did it last year in order to help out. Now we need the help.
Yeah.
But I could almost see, as each department came and presented their budget to us, everyone wanted something more.
Everybody did.
Everyone wanted something more.
That's right.
And I feel like it's a Pandora's box we're opening with, doing
Sure.
this, because what would stop someone next
Well,
year?
we know for a fact that the police department would love to have another full-time officer. We know for a fact that some of the departments in this building right here are understaffed. We know that a couple of the departments, according to department heads, are some of the people that work in those departments are not paid enough. So we start throwing all that in there in a pot, and no disrespect to the school, but $41,000 would have solved a whole bunch of other little problems. that have crept up. And I'm not trying to take away from, I just don't want to get to a place where we become the piggy bank when the school runs a little short, that's all.
Yeah, there's also been an issue with maintenance being deferred. In this case, it's not being deferred, but one of the first items that gets eliminated is maintenance, whether it's on buildings or fields, in order to pay salaries. That's been a,
And then that comes
That's
back
been a
and
problem in
bites
the
us
past.
on the other end, because now instead of it costing $1,000 to fix up a field, it costs us $25,000 to replace it. So that, pushing that can down the road doesn't work. So. And I agree with Kate. So the school's going to take up the shortfall if there is a need to use that special ed.
Correct. And this takes away 21,000 of the special ed for that.
so our options, could we make a motion to eliminate C from this article for our finance committee vote? And vote on everything else but C, and leave that out of our vote?
I mean, you don't, A through J, you can vote them individually, you can vote
Right.
them
This
as a
is
group.
all on a recommendation to the selectmen, so we can pretty much do this any way we want to do this.
And if we vote, we're technically voting this on the field and maintenance, even though we know they're not gonna use it, and give it to the school, right?
Right. The precedent issue was brought up, and it's a serious issue to think about. But when you're dealing with free cash, there really is no precedent. It's every year is different. Is that just because you do something one year doesn't mean you have to do it the next year. And I think that, as I've heard everybody made, is the statements you've made is that, although some of you may agree to accept this, it's not something you like, and it's not something you want to see again. And I think that that's where you have more weight in trying to explain next year that, this type of thing is not something you ever want to see again.
Yeah, well, everybody likes that word precedent, and the first thing that anybody will throw in your face is how much we've done this in the past.
Yep.
And this just is one more thing that will be coming back to us saying, well, you did this in the past.
Yep.
So therefore, this year we need $80,000.
Right.
Because it's only $40,000 more than last year, and you did that anyway, so.
And I'll just share this too, is, other options we could have looked at was saying, okay, well, why don't we take $41,000 out of the school budget to fund the school resource officer, and then, we could free up $41,000. But then we got into operational issues, that this is really a maintenance issue, it's really a supply issue, and it was more in the lines of capital to maintain it, so we kind of, chose this item because it has better flexibility, if you will, to what are other, it's farther away from operation cost,
Right.
from personnel cost. Is it still an operational cost? Yes, but it's not a personnel cost.
This was the lesser of the evils,
That is
to
correct.
take it out of this account.
Correct.
Do you want to continue down the list, John, or do you want to?
Might as well just look at everything else.
Just look at everything else, and then if you want to break them out, or you want to make a motion, we could take a motion to accept this article, and then an amendment on, if everything else is good, we can amend out item C and put whatever you want in there for wording. This is just going to be what goes upstairs and is talked about tonight, so.
So item D is the $8,700 for reimbursement to the redevelopment authority for the master plan of money that they outlaid before. The next item is the capital reserve account, laid out $396,000 for the PPE gear.
This puts it back.
And puts it back,
Good.
which you guys voted on, and you knew that this
Absolutely.
vote was coming from here.
Absolutely.
The Recreation Committee startup support funding for programs and activity in FY20. This is how we've been funding the recreation program for a couple years until it gets established. The goal was eventually to put that into the operational budget. I was hoping to do that this year, but it didn't happen. So next year is when I'm going to try to build that into the operational budget for the town side. Then we have $249,000 for supplemental funding for the police station, the town hall complex site improvements, including parking and demo. As was stated last year at town meeting, we funded the police station building with the last bond we're going to be doing. Thereafter, we were going to be looking at one-time money, either through capital, free cash, or other savings, to fund the site improvements of the police station, to fund all the additional bid out, the outbuilding, the fit out, and so on and so forth, so that we knew what our debt service was going to be going in the future, so we wouldn't have any additional debt service. Item H is the Old Colony. After the budget was set, we did get an increase from Old Colony for an additional students that we didn't anticipate. So this satisfies that FY19 number. In our FY20 number, we do have those students incorporated in this year's operation budget. So, you know, just like we've talked before, when we have mid-year issues, you know, we make sure that in the next year, those are built into the following operating budget. We have $25,000 for post-employment benefits. And last is our $250,000 for the North Carver Water District, which is something we've discussed ad nauseum before, but this really covers the debt service for the North Carver Water District, giving some of the betterments were waived away, and that project was not properly managed many years ago.
That's that necessary evil thing. we have to
That
do.
is correct.
Yeah.
Just for information purposes, I was over the fire station today. They gave out their last full set of gear
Oh, good.
today, so everybody's got all their new gear and going through it, and it was
There's
quite
a lot of
impressive.
talk-
That gear is quite impressive.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Kate
I've
and
seen
I
it.
were
Al and
there.
I went
And-
over, and it
Oh, did
was
you?
the setup they had for everyone getting their gear. It's also an education time too, where they're doing some training
Right.
and, you know, walking through and seeing the different, you know, stations they had for the firefighters and
Yeah.
watching them get recertified in CPR and everything. And it was just, it's
It
very
was-
impressive what they do at that firehouse.
And I posted this on Facebook. Jesse introduced me to a couple of the guys that were standing there, and I said, you know, it's the least we could do for you. That's truly how I feel. You guys run into burning buildings, and it's not like you're in it for the money, because you're not. And an older guy leaned over, and I hate to say older guy, but older than the younger guys, not quite as old as me, leaned over and said, we look at it as a privilege to firefight in the town of Carver, and I was completely blown away by the statement.
Well, as I've said many times, that them and EMS save this town well over $2 million a year, because they're call volunteer folks doing this at $16 an hour,
Yeah.
or $16.50, I think it is.
I think,
$16.53.
yeah, went up a little bit, but
Yeah.
I couldn't get over the statement.
Yep.
You know, they had everything out on the tables. I'm sure everybody saw the pictures on Facebook. And a senior firefighter was outfitting, each guy that put on his gear had somebody standing right there to help him put on that gear in case there was anything wrong with it. It could get marked up. The chief was there, the deputy chief, the assistant deputy chief. It was like Christmas. These guys were just so enamored with having the new, not because it was a new toy, but they were so enamored with having new gear that they felt good about putting on. And you know, I think it's the least we could do. I really, really do. So
Particularly with the studies with the carcinogenics and how that equipment is leading into higher rates of cancer.
and
so
that's
the
going to
fact that
affect
we're-
our insurance. It's going to affect our workman's comp.
Yep.
So
we
this
give them
comes
equipment.
back to us in other savings, just in the healthcare end of it, that puts us on the hook, even with our own rates.
Yep.
So
So, John, you can break this up, A through J, you can vote them individually, you can pull one out and vote that individually, it's up to you guys how you want to do it.
Sure.
You know, this is what we have, you know, on the docket for right now.
any other discussion on this? What are you thinking, John?
Well, I'm just looking at, I got a couple questions. One was, on the vocational tech assessment additional charge fiscal year 19. Has that ever happened before? This is for additional students in the 19 fiscal year that they weren't in the
Right,
original
because by
budget?
the time we set our budget,
Yeah.
is that our budget is getting set in, you know, pretty much February. We're voting on it in March, and then by the time people enroll, they're enrolling at this particular point. So by the time they get the enrollment finalized, it can go up or down a couple people.
Well, I definitely can see that it can happen. I just don't
Yeah.
remember it ever happening in the past. I don't remember seeing a free cash article for the voc. occasional.
I
But I
think
think
if we go back 2 or 3 years, it's happened once that I can recall.
Okay.
And this is the solution to do it. We may have funded it in Article 4 in a previous year,
Okay.
whether it was free cash or Article 4. I know there was at least once where we did have to fund an additional student. I just don't remember if it was free cash or Article 4.
Is this still 91 kids for the current year? Is that how we're, any idea? I know that
I
that was the
believe so.
last meeting I went to was for that, it was 91 students. Down from 93, but then the price went up. So
How much is it per student?
about 13,100.
13,100? So this is 4 additional students?
Yeah, and last year, I believe it was 12,800 or 12,900. So it was a small increase. I mean, they control their
Doesn't
budget
take much.
exceptionally well.
I have it if you want it in my binder or something.
And then on
For
the
later.
police station and town hall complex site, the 249, I guess, 2 questions. Should that really be put into the capital fund to fund future capital investments versus free cash? Or, I guess, other options, or no? Should this be just funded right into the capital account?
Well, it's for, if that money was in the capital, it would be coming out for the same thing. It's just that 249 is the residual that's left over in the free cash article. And, you know, right now, we've got about $2 million that we need to make up for the additional work that needs to happen with the police station. Site work.
That's where my next question was coming from, where that number came from. That's the balancing factor for the free cash.
That's correct. That's why that's the only number that ends in,
Yeah, I was wondering where that
58.
came from.
yeah.
Okay. And maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way, but if I look at both F and C, they're both fiscal year 20 articles. You could argue that both are kind of operating funds. One from the, I understand recreation, can't establish a department just yet. We want to make some kind of plan to set one up in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So that really is a one-time money is being used for what we hope to be a reoccurring operational department.
Correct.
And the thing with the fields is kind of the same way, where even though it says fields, we're using that for as a one-time transfer of
That's right.
free cash money. So to be fair, I think if you're gonna either don't do either, you do both. You know, you leave it in.
Right.
So when we met with the recreation committee, that wasn't already built, I can't remember, that wasn't already built into this 22.5?
That was built in.
It was built in there, okay.
Same thing as last year.
But is this where it was coming from?
Yes, last year came from the same thing.
Okay.
I thought I remembered seeing
Yeah.
something like that.
And, you know, again, it's not an established department that it has, you know, full-time staff. They're doing per diem work. So that's why we've been funding them under here until we can establish them as a full-blown department. And I guess that goes to your point too, John, is that when you're looking at C and F, is that none of those are funding, you know, salaries and benefits per se. Well, I mean, I take the F is doing a per diem type
But
payment.
C is.
Yeah. C is not personnel at all.
Anyone else? John, you want to make that motion? How do you want to do this?
I don't like it from a standpoint, but I think if we can, whether it's, the committee's change over the next few years, is that if we make an attempt not to do this again, I guess, with one-time free cash money, I guess I'm okay with leaving it in this article.
So you can take your vote and then in your vote in parentheses, you know, put a statement in there too, if you want, you know, a disclaimer for future, to memorialize your concern.
To say C is a one-time expense, right?
Correct.
But
Well,
F is
actually,
not necessarily a one-time expense
not
until
that
we
it-
develop that department. That'll come up again.
F.
For
F,
F, right.
yeah,
So
F.
that could be a reoccurring
That could be, F could be,
until we get something established.
until we get something established, right?
But C is not really a one-time expense because C is under O&M field maintenance. And then we're taking and transferring that fund out.
Well, that's fine.
But it's
One-time
still
out
in
of this
here
money.
as field maintenance.
Right.
So we can't if we vote down C, then we're voting down the field maintenance portion. We're not voting down the transfer, because it's not listed as a transfer.
Correct.
This is what's happening to the money.
Oh, okay.
This
So
gives-
next year, there will still be a townwide O&M field maintenance and supplies FY '21 item that'll have a number attached to it. But that doesn't
Coming out
necessarily,
of free cash?
most likely, perhaps, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna be going to fund something else that it's not designed to fund. If this item were in here, if this item were being used for exactly what it's stated it's being used for, then that $41,000 would be coming out for fields, am I correct?
Correct.
So next year, it's possible to have a number in there that could read the same way and actually be going to the fields.
Next year, the intent is not to do anything with the fields out of free cash. That would roll into capital.
Okay. So then we could take a motion that shows item C as a
One-time expense.
one-time, one-shot deal. Maybe, we'll vote in favor of it this time, not to be repeated or something like that. Yes, no?
I'll throw a motion out there that says, I guess, approve Article 5 as written with, I guess I'll call a disclaimer that, transfer C not be repeated in future years. So you can't say that because you might really have a need for operational maintenance
Right.
of any field in future years.
Well, and again, if there was a unique, weird
Yeah.
change that we had to redo irrigation and put in new lines, well, that would be a different situation. But this is
They're also
really,
listed as
And I
that.
mean, and that's the thing.
right,
I
to be
think-
listed as that's something
My
different.
thing is reading this, it's supplementing the school budget, is what it says as our description.
That is correct.
We're supplementing the school budget.
By taking this out, you're allowing them to reallocate those funds into the art teacher and save that half art teacher, which is a full teacher.
Yeah.
Instead of having that teacher go to half-time, that teacher stays a full-time by the school committee revoting this $41,000 into thing. So yes, that's the net of the whole thing. It's the
That really is.
compromise. Yeah, it's the compromise.
So option is vote on it as is, approve it, vote to take line item C out, and therefore agree, approve everything else, and then take C separately.
We could vote to approve it with the disclaimer that,
I would like to take C out separately.
Is that your motion?
I make a motion to take C out. And vote on A through J, except for C.
Yeah, why don't you do that, make it
I'll
simple.
second that.
motion made and seconded to remove C from Article 5, and we'll vote on that separately. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So C is a separate article now for us, for a
Yep.
vote. So A, B, D, E, F, G, H, I.
And
is-
J.
And J. We need a motion for that. Let's get that one out of the way.
I make a motion to approve A, B, D, E, F, G, H, I, J as written
On Article
on
5.
Article 5.
Second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve what she said on Article 5 as written. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That one. We're gonna make a note here for the selectmen's meeting. So we're gonna do,
Item J. I mean C. C. C.
C's next.
all right, so this is 5-0. Except item C.
And just for the record, just so everybody knows too, the selectmen don't have to accept your recommendation.
That's correct.
What we
No,
do in C, but it's your call as to how you want to vote C.
Final decisions, town meeting.
That's right.
That's right. The town meeting may say no. So, item C, so now we need a motion to deal with item C. Anybody?
All right, make a motion to approve item C.
Let's turn that
I
over.
second it.
Okay.
So motion made and seconded to approve item C. You want to put any caveat in there?
No, I think we'll just take it, I'm not it, we'll just take it as is.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to approve item C as is. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
3-2.
3-2.
Okay. Item 6. Item 6 refers to several appendices in the back of the document. This includes Appendix A, which is the town org chart. Appendix B, which is the wage and salary pay scale. All of those steps go up 2% year over year. Item C is the wage and salary classification plan, which includes both full-time, part-time staff, as well as boards and committees. Item D is our 10-year pro forma that breaks down the cost of everything, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. Item E is the operation budget for the town, broken down into the 6 categories. And that is what we have for the appendices. If you go to the appendices, Appendix E, at the end of general government, you'll see that $2.545 million number, which is the same thing that you see under Article 6 for general government salaries and expenditures. You then have the public safety number, which is on the top of the second page of that appendix, which is $2.963 million.
Yep.
And, well, that creates a dilemma for me. Okay. Just bear with me for a second here.
Curious.
Those numbers are different.
I know, that's what I'm looking at right now.
59963.
That's at $4,000. Okay, I have to just go back and make sure this wasn't the wrong insert here for Appendix E, which I think it's the wrong Appendix E, but that's all $4,000. I know that Article 5 is correct, that 2.959 is supposed to be the correct number.
Article 6.
Article 6, sorry, is supposed to be the correct number.
I'm sorry, which number was correct number, the 2959 or the,
The 2595 is correct.
this is the correct number?
Yeah.
Didn't we talk 2 weeks ago about something was going up $4,000?
Yeah.
That was the EMS.
EMS, okay.
Yep, and I think that
That might be the-
296 is the issue there, and I just,
Okay.
so I think it's Appendix E that I just need to adjust by $4,000.
Okay.
I will have that before our 7 o'clock meeting. Next is, we've got the 1335243, which is Public Works, which is correct in Appendix E. Following that, we've got the 377,000 for Human Services, the 411 for Culture and Recreation, and then we've got the $2,611, or 11,000 for benefits. So that $10.071 million number on that article is also the same number you see in Appendix D, which is the town share of the funding available down at the bottom, which is the 29.7% that the town receives. The $23.84 million, that is the 70.3% that the school receives, followed by our North Carver Water District, our Cranberry Village, and our North Carver Water Betterment Debt Stabilization Fund.
So let me come back to a question I have. Is this probably the same one you're gonna ask, George? Is this $10,071,990 reflective of the previous $41,000? And is the school budget adjusted for that? Or are those numbers still,
Those numbers have not changed since this forecast was.
so those amounts are still in each respective budget? So
That's correct.
the school budget will actually go up?
The school budget will actually, no, the school budget is the same number that's in the financial policy numbers. What the school committee voted was $41,000 more
Okay.
than the $23.841.
Okay, so this covers the deficit.
So what the intent is with the previous article is that the chairman will make a motion at the next school committee meeting to reduce their school budget down by the $41,000 to meet this number, which is in the town forecast. And to reallocate the $41,000 they had for field maintenance to pay for the teacher, the halftime for the teacher. So the net of the school number does not change, has not changed from what the financial management policies are of the town.
Gotcha. Thank you. In all of these individual budgets, in your packet is a synopsis of the votes that we've taken on the individual departments. So we've already discussed these numbers.
The detail,
Sorry?
you're talking the detail budgets?
Yeah.
And so again, I have to
And then
replace
Elaine had
it.
asked me for what our vote count was on the individual, so I put that together.
So I have to replace Appendix E with the revised one, with the ambulance to get to that number.
All of these under the Article 6, where we have 10,071,990.
Yes.
Over here, it's got 11 million. Is there,
There was another number.
10,071 is down here.
Yeah.
So George,
Oh,
what
all
you
right,
have
I see
is you
what-
have some offsets that
Yeah.
come out from the ambulance fund, from some transfers we have between the school and the town, between the cemetery. So like, for instance, in the school piece, is they're transferring $169,000 to the town budget because we have 3 employees that used to be in the school, now in the town side, under the town O&M department. So that's how you get back to that number.
Okay.
So that 169 is in the school
Right,
budget,
that's
but they
the
make a
offset.
transfer over to us.
no, I just didn't read down far enough. I was looking at total numbers and I get confused. No, I won't say I get confused.
A lot on there.
Wait a second.
And then the proposed motion part of this talks about the North Carver Water District in the Cranberry Village, and it looks like it's in a breakdown.
Right, so those are the 2 enterprise funds that are funded from receipts. So that's the 269 and the 30,000. And then the 72,000, just so you know what that is, that actually is from the North Carver Water District Betterment Stabilization Fund, which again is that savings fund. Yeah.
And has the North Carver Water District voted and approved their budget?
They have. And they've been told that they need to find ways of reducing down the town subsidy,
Good.
Good.
particularly since we know that the Route 44 development can use their existing supply without an expansion. So we don't see the need to expand the North Carver Water District, which would add money to the thing. We're just gonna maintain our existing system. So when you voted this before, if you look on the second page, it
Right.
has 501 with an abstention and for
Kate,
EMS.
for EMS, Beth abstained from the fire department budget, and I abstained from the stipend increase on conservation.
Right, okay. And so you just want to reconfirm that vote, or how do you want to do that?
Is there a need to take it up again?
Actually, there's not really, because actually you had the negative vote, which, oh no, you didn't have a negative, it's just the
No,
abstention.
there was no negative vote. It was just, if we do it again, we take it all over again, we're gonna have to break it out.
Right. Yep,
Because John is an EMS, Beth's husband is on the fire department, and I sit on the conservation committee,
Yep.
so.
yep, so we have
We just-
EMS,
we
fire,
just
and
do it
Concom.
again.
Okay, so I'll just add Concom in there for you, Alan.
Yeah,
All right, any questions on Article 6?
no, I think we're good with that. Article 7,
Well, that's not good. All right, Article 7, the first Article 7.
Oh, yeah.
that's why it's called a draft.
Yep, exactly. So the first Article 7 is, these are revolving funds that the town meeting has approved. And every year you go forward and re-up the amount that can be used in these revolving funds. We do have town council actually adding another, some additional language in here. So under this solar net metering credits, is that in the scope of what town meeting had approved, what it does not include is us upgrading incandescent lights to LED. So what we want to be able to do is to use this solar net metering credit fund where we do have non-LED lights in town to pay for the upgrades to those LED lights, which then further saves additional electricity. So we are going to have that one change, but that's going to be a text change. The numbers are not going to change from here.
And there's also a grant we just got to do some of that. It's not part of the green energy, it's a separate grant.
Correct. But that requires us to put money into it as well. It's not 100% grant.
Right. I'm okay with this. For the purpose of the vote, can we call this 7A? I know you'll change it, and Article 7B will become Article 8, but for this purpose here, because there's two number 7s. So let's make this 7A. Make that one 7B. Any further discussion on 7A?
Motion to approve Article 7A is written.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve Article 7A as written.
With the additional language for the LED lights.
With the additional language for the LED light.
I thought I heard you say that.
Hold on. This is why I don't take minutes.
Oh, yeah, Shelby.
God
Amongst
bless
many
you.
other things.
Motion made and seconded to approve Article 7A as written with the additional language for LED lighting. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. 7B.
7B is our capital article, A through N. Did we vote on this before? No, we didn't vote
No.
on it.
I think so.
No.
Oh, yeah, you did. No, that's capital outlay voting on that. Okay.
No, we had the joint meeting with Capital Outlay for the EMS, for the fire department stuff, but we haven't taken this up.
Okay. So with this, what we have here is, do you want me to go through all of them again, or how would you like me
No.
to do this? Okay.
Just take it. There's your upgrade. Is that correct?
For LED,
Yeah?
that's just for that one building, because that's all new fixtures and stuff like that. That's a separate project before we get into street
Okay.
lights and stuff.
fire tanker, this was discussed.
Is it 2 fire tank or fire tanker number 2?
Fire tanker number 2.
Fire tanker number 2.
I'll put that hashtag in there.
And
And that's been on the capital plan for several years.
Now, not that I don't like spending money on safety and fire, but on the future capital plan, is there kind of like they have a lot of stuff out there now, maybe in the fire department, because they've got the new trucks that came in 2 years ago, this, in pretty good shape?
Yeah, they're in really good shape, and if we go to the appendix,
There's a ladder
Yeah.
truck hanging out there too, right?
it's out there in future years.
Future wish list.
So, what you have next year for fire, just to lay that out, you've got, about 90,000 for radios. The following year is rehabbing one of the existing brush breakers. That's in 2020 for 175,000. Then replacing the Jaws of Life equipment for 110. So you see there's really no major equipment until you get out to years 26. And then obviously 27. Those things can move based upon needs, but to answer your question, yes, they're well set up for a while. And this tanker has been on there for the last 3 years, and we have to keep on pushing it out. And it's to replace almost a 30-year-old tanker that
right.
was rehabbed, 20 years ago, but it's still a 30-year-old tanker.
And it's gonna remain in service, it's gonna give us a second unit.
It's a backup unit, right? It's gonna be coming off the front line.
And I think I remember, okay,
No, I was just gonna ask a question on the radios, the handhelds. Are they compatible with the police department?
So
Can we buy
yes.
them all in one package?
Eric Germain kind of oversees and works with the police and also EMS.
Yeah.
So they do coordinate all that stuff because it all goes through dispatch. The dispatch does all 3 departments too.
Yeah.
So they make sure everything's compatible. My understanding is there's a new, one of the frequencies that they were using is going to be discontinued by the FCC or something in 2 years. So that's one of the issues that they have to upgrade this stuff.
Okay, so they
It's all
can all,
compatible.
at an emergency, they can all talk to each other on the same radio, on the same.
They do.
without
And
any
then we're
problem.
putting
They
up
do.
repeaters and other protection in some of our large buildings, basically our schools, so that there's no dead spots in there.
That was the biggest issue we had in the military. Couldn't talk from one service to the other.
Yeah.
I think Middleborough
Everybody
just
about
went
that.
through some kind of a big upgrade too. They had the same problem. They had frequencies that were discontinued and we had to go and change
Gets-
everything around.
Gets to be hair raising.
Yeah.
Got to it.
and I should remember this, but I don't, item H, the capital reserve account from the annual town meeting 2014, this is leftover funds.
So this is savings that they have that go back into that capital reserve fund. And like this past year, we had the PPE gear, where that has to come in front of both the finance committee and the capital outlay committee. That's what that fund does allow for. So just like you have your own reserve that you have control over, this is the capital reserve, which you have half control over, and the capital has half control over. And these are all saved funds from projects that have come in under budget.
I don't have any problem with having this kind of money in a rainy day fund at all. When
It's all one-time money,
Yeah.
and it's saved money that is
When we
there.
needed the PPE gear, it was to take it out of this account, put it in that account on a piece of paper, and we're all done here. There was no, oh my God, what do we do now?
Yep.
You know, I like that. Why are we buying a bus?
It's to replace one.
Besides that, is it the one we got now falling apart or something?
No, we try to purchase 1 or 2 buses and 1 or 2 police cars every year, just to rotate the fleet as it goes through there. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 1, occasionally it's none, but it's a reoccurring piece.
But we do trade in usually the older bus, right?
Yes.
Purchase.
We usually get rid of the oldest, and then just like when we buy fire engines, we get rid of the oldest and keep, 1 in backup, but the oldest stuff gets taken out. And then what the school's also done too is, given some additional needs, is they've also migrated to these wheelchair accessible vans. which allows them to provide better service for students.
Yeah, that I have no problem with.
Not related to this article, but kind of sort of, meaning that every once in a while, the finance committee used to talk about what would happen if we outsourced, you know, the buses and transportation and everything else. Are there any state funds to do some kind of like, you know, what-if scenario for us to do comparisons? I know there's two schools of thought. Some people say, you know, service gets affected. Some people say there's additional costs if you farm it out. But just having an independent group come in and say, you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong, is there anything available from?
Not necessarily from the state. You guys can always hire a consultant to come in and analyze that. What I will tell you is there's pros and cons on both sides. You know, you may be able to hire an outside firm and avoid some of your OPEB issues. But on the flip side, then you run the market demand, and if they need to jack up their prices, then they can do that. Where, you know, on the town side, you're paying benefits for people. So you have to weigh those things out.
But no matter how you look at it, the company that's gonna come in here and haul our kids around on a contract basis and own the bus company is in it for profit.
Sure.
So there's always gonna be a margin there, and I don't believe that we're that free with our oversight that it's on a runaway train. I don't think that I'd like to see the numbers, but I'm willing to bet that we seem to run things on a pretty tight ship. I'm not sure that we could save money by subbing that out, and then what suffers for it? Because the company that's going to take the sub is going to park buses where we park buses now, so they're going to be exclusively for our use anyway. And you know, what's our total cost, and then their profit.
I don't really have a feeling either way. I think that it all comes out, even if we're paying a little bit more, if we're happy with the service, you know, why change it? But every once in a while, it's good just to do it.
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
I think it's an item you should look at when you do, after town meeting, you start to look at what the long-term, you know, sustainability is of our current model. Then that's a good time to ask for that. You know, again, I haven't looked at the data directly because it's not under my direct oversight, but I've heard pros and cons of both sides. So you got to weigh all those out and see where it shakes out.
Well, we're going to be taking up that whole sustainability issue anyway, and if we can make this part of it. That's going to be in conjunction with selectmen and school, and so it'll be good to put together maybe a grand plan as to get all the numbers in there, what all of it costs.
Okay, just curious.
See what you're starting?
Sorry.
And then, the last number there, the 1.9, that pays the existing debt. Most of that's existing debt that's there.
Yeah.
That's paying for all the structures and the middle high school repairs that we've done in the past.
Yeah.
So it looks like a large number, but it's not really when you start breaking it down.
Still is a large number.
Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
look at it.
Any further discussion on this? We go with this? I'll take a motion, sure.
I make a motion to approve Article 7B as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Article 7B as written. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Article 9, we skipped right over. So Article 7, could just change the number to 8 because there's an Article 9.
Hey, look at that. And you know what? It actually says in the proposed motion, Article 8. All right, so that...
It's all master plan.
Yeah.
Could you put that in the minute, Shelby? Let's clarify that 7A and 7B, in our copy, there were two Article 7s,
Yep.
but in the description, Article 7B was really listed as Article 8, just so that there's no confusion. Thank you. It does say Article 8 in the warrant.
There it is.
Article
Article 9 is CPC. This is just the administrative article. Article 2 is the one for the playground.
Yeah.
This is taking their allocation for community housing, historic reserves, putting that into those buckets, paying the annual debt service of $329,000 for the sports complex project, and then the $29,000 for administrative expenses. So nothing unusual about this at all. No projects are proposed in Article 9. In Article 2 there are, but not in Article 9.
Pretty easy. Any further discussion on this? I'll take a motion.
Wasn't there more debt service though in the debt service number than just the recreation?
No. No, because what we did is we borrowed, when we did the elementary school, we had an allocation of $1.9 million. Of that, we could borrow $1 million.
Right.
Last year at town meeting, we had enough of CPC funds, over $1 million in cash, that we said, you know what, let's cancel that $1 million borrowing, pay for it in cash, and then apply the borrowing to the sports complex. So this debt service of $329 covers that debt service for the sports complex.
Right, this is year 1 of 10. Right, correct? Motion?
Make a motion to approve Article 9 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Article 9 as written. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? 5-0. Article 10.
All right, so Article 10, I'm gonna just ask you to table this right now. We can talk about it tonight. I'm still working with town council on the right language for this. In essence, Article 10, we're gonna have a minimum of $845,000 in surplus funds from the elementary school building project. It's gonna be significantly more than that. Not quite double that, but more than that. And it won't be fully closed until next year. But, you know, as I've stated, we need to move some additional one-time funds or cost-saving funds in to fund the police station. So that's what this article's about, and I'm just working through the language with town council to finalize this. But again, it's gonna be funds that were saved from the elementary school building project. It's gonna be for projects that are no longer needed any longer, and reallocate those to this project.
Motion to table this, anybody?
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
Well, I got a question only from, I think, Bill was here and asked.
No, I miss Bill.
Would any savings go back into reduce, guess not, there's no reduction in residential tax, property taxes that could be looked at with some excess funds, no?
No, because once you put the bond out there, you're stuck with paying the bond to the rest of the component. What it is we don't have to borrow extra money. We did exceptionally well, better than any other MSBA project, any other school building project that's out there. That this is actually a logistical challenge to make this happen, but it's good news overall.
I was thinking more of the debt exclusion when it's over, and then, you know,
It's over,
you know, but this is not like that.
I make a motion to table Article 10.
Second.
Motion to table made and seconded. All those in favor? There's no further discussion on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. This is 5-0 to table.
Let's see.
11 is the Old Colony Agreement. I take it that that's actually in here in super fine print, right? But since we didn't see what the previous version was, I take it this has been vetted by council,
This is the
right?
compromise that came back to town council, which is in Appendix M, I think it is. Is it M? Yeah, M.
The Old Colony accept this?
Old Colony's accepted it, and I think Rochester's already accepted it. But this is after the town councils and all the towns worked with Old Rochester to do it. So this has been approved by Old Colony.
Old Colony.
And Rochester has approved it as well.
It was, to the best of my knowledge, I was at that meeting, this was just to clean up old and duplicative language. It was to kind of like not, it wasn't changing from the best of what I know, it wasn't changing anything. It was just cleaning it up because the agreement hadn't been touched since it was written. So that's all that was all about. Any discussion on this? Anybody else? Take a motion.
Motion to approve Article 11. That's it.
Second.
Second.
Motion made. You don't seem happy.
No, I'm fine, I'm just abstaining.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That's what we have to. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on Article 11? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Me.
Technically don't have to abstain on that one, just so you know, because his husband doesn't get paid for it.
He does not, no.
Does not, he's a volunteer for it, you don't receive any direct benefit from that. But it's safer to abstain, I'm just letting you know you
Yeah.
don't have to.
I figured it's just safer to, no conflict that way.
I forgot all about that, to be honest with you.
Just to clear,
I just
my
think it's
husband's
the-
the chair of the Old
Yeah,
Colony
I think it's the
School
right
Committee.
thing to do.
Yeah,
I really do.
not required, but
And no one can ever look back and say something that, you know, you don't need to have said.
Yep.
Article 12, I don't think is us, right?
No, Article 13 you discussed with the treasurer collector before for establishing the fees.
We
I think
did.
you did vote on this?
We did, as a matter of fact, and I sent Elaine an update, Article 12, MGL acceptance on November 27th. Our meeting vote was 5-0-0 to accept.
Okay.
You weren't here with
I
us.
wasn't.
At that time, Laurie Hinault came to us and explained the way the fees are collected, and this one was specific to a change in the, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to remember, was the stamp, right? The municipal lien certificate, the MLC, the fee from $25 to $50, and the request was made that the selectmen be able to set the fees, because it actually costs more than $25 to produce this municipal lien certificate, and this is part of the closing costs in that whole big disclosure package you get that adds up everything you've ever seen in your whole life anyway. So it brought it back in line with 90% of the surrounding communities are charging that $50 number. So this was to give the selectmen the endorsement that the selectmen could set these kinds of fees. And that was voted unanimously, so I'll take I don't even know that we need another
No, we
motion.
don't.
We
We've
don't.
already voted.
The best you can do is 5-0 again.
5-0 again, that's right. So it was 5-0. So that's all set. Article 14,
Article 14 is coming out.
removing.
Yep. Article 15 is actually Article 14, which is the transfer of tax title property. We're still working on the list
see that.
for that, so that's gonna be taken up at a future meeting.
Table that.
Yeah, and, you know, this is property the town's taken for tax title, and some of it needs to be accepted by town meeting, because in essence, it's in the care and custody of the treasurer collector. So, for example, the land that the new fire station's on is in the care and custody of the treasurer collector. So if she needs to raise some money, well, she could just sell off that property. You know, I'm not sure how well that would go, but,
Nice.
you know, just some things we need to clear up on that.
Well, is it in the current treasurer collector or in the previous treasurer collector?
No, it's always in the current. It's always in the current.
You want to table that?
Yes.
I make a motion to table Article 14.
Second.
Well, Article 14 is coming out, so for the
Well,
purpose of this
that's- oh.
paperwork, I'd like to keep that to
Okay, so
Article
for Article
15.
15, sorry, I was,
The transfer of tax title property, which is written as 15, will really be 14.
Okay, but in this paper, our vote's going to be on tabling Article 15,
Yep.
the transfer of tax title property.
Correct.
Motion made, second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to table Article 15, the transfer of tax title properties. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed 5-0.
The second Article 15, which will be the real Article 15, is for the tax overlay district for the Plymouth County Airport. Again, still a work in progress with town council, but the genesis of this is the Plymouth Airport is bifurcated by the town boundary, which in essence means there's two different tax rates.
That's right.
Tax
Nobody's
rate,
building in Carver because Plymouth's tax rate is so much.
that is exactly correct.
That's the bottom line. So
So-
they come to the planning director, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Stephen and I had this conversation. They come to the planning department, they say, I'd love to put up a 200,000 square foot building, but I can't afford the tax rate. I'm gonna put it in Plymouth, and I can save X dollars, so that over the next 5 years, I get a free building. And that's, the numbers are substantial between the two. So we have two choices. We can leave the tax rate where it is, and nobody will build, or we can adjust the tax rate for that district, and then we'll have additional money coming in from the building, as well as personal property taxes, as well as potential sales taxes. So
So this is just if they build near the airport?
it's an overlay district,
An
am I
the
correct?
overlay,
Yeah,
okay.
it'll just be for in the airport property.
Property, okay.
Probably within the fenced area, the FAA secured area is what we're
Okay.
talking about. So it'd just be focused in there.
Okay.
It'll be on the compound.
Real quick point. We just voted on 15, so should they make 15A?
Yeah, we'd have to
Vote on
make this one
15B.
15A now.
Yeah,
So
and I'm not asking you to vote on this, and I'm just giving you an update on where that is, because we're still working on the
Okay.
language
On
for
the
that.
language.
Oh, so we can table this too then?
Yep, you can table that too.
15B is
Yeah, unless-
And you can get to your favorite article, which is Article 16.
Oh, I just love that one.
Can I go back to 15A for a second?
Yeah.
Just,
No,
so I get tax overlay, creating an overlay district. That would reduce the taxes to a potential commercial person doing something in that overlay district? Okay.
So the goal is that somebody building in the fence of the airport on the Carver side,
Yep.
that the selectmen will be able to negotiate an agreement with that individual owner to equalize the taxes on the Plymouth side. So that then that owner can choose, he doesn't have to choose to go to Plymouth to build because it's cheaper. He can choose to have a 20-year agreement to equalize the taxes on both sides.
So the tax would not be then pushed to the residential, with any of this potential.
Nothing would be pushed to the residential, this would all go commercial.
Stay commercial.
But it would probably be 75-80% of what the normal commercial rate is because of what would be being done there.
Gotcha.
But it's 75-80% of money that we don't get right now.
Yep, got it.
and Plymouth Airport is up and coming. I mean, it's gonna get I think much more built up than it is. I think there's gonna be more construction going on, there's gonna be more buildings put in there's gonna be expansion of the airport. So there may even be an idea to regionalize the thing. There is already, I think, commuter. Am I right, Sean? There's commuter going into Plymouth Airport now, right? I thought you would know that.
I'm a private pilot, not a commercial pilot.
I apologize.
I don't think there's any.
Yeah, there is. There's a couple of Falcon, there's some Falcon jets that are in the other hangar.
There's corporate jets that are there,
Corporate.
and those ones where you buy, jet shares
Yeah.
is there, but there's no scheduled service to my
I
knowledge.
don't think so, not yet.
I don't know.
But I think that's in the works also. Or they're trying to get it in the works, I'll put it that way. So, motion to table 15A, I would accept from someone.
I make
15A or
motion.
15, okay.
15A. The other one's 15, this is 15A.
That's fine.
Okay. I make a motion to table Article 15A, Tax Overlay District of Plymouth County Airport.
Motion made and seconded to table Article 15A, the tax overlay district for Plymouth County Airport. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Table. Stretch code we already voted on. We don't have to talk about that. See that? 3-1.
Oh, Bill is the one, right?
Well, I am gonna make a statement on the stretch code. Since we're kind of, I've gotten so much feedback. Yeah, well, flack would have been a different word, but feedback. We're not trying to, the Finance Committee has no business trying to establish a building code. That being said, the only way to do anything with the grant money is to become a green community. That being said, with the latest thing that's just come out now, and there seems to be the state push to make us 100% renewable by 2035 or whatever, which may or may not ever happen. But there are 250 communities currently in the stretch code. Everybody is currently under the new energy code guidelines. So we have tonight in your other little packets, this is for the selectmen, a listing of what the real differences are. And the differences in the impact to homeowners is relatively small. So based on that, since the Finance Committee is taking up an issue that is looking to increase revenue and increase finances and increase grant availability, the only way we can get this 170,000 potential grant money is to adopt a stretch code. So after lots of discussion, it was voted to send this to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration, to add it to the warrant, and then it will ultimately wind up in the hands of town meeting. And, you know, as far as someone being an advocate of it, personally, I'm an advocate of it from the angle of the grant money. My son's real involved with Middleborough. He said that they joined it last year. They've gotten a couple $100,000. They've got electric vehicles they've got a deal on. They've got electric stanchions. They've got LED street lighting, and they've become a stretch community, which is really not the stretch code. It's a green community. That's where the grant money really comes from.
But it's also only on new construction.
It
It's
is,
not
and
on
I actually,
anything
that's in the yellow on, right there, Beth, that top piece that's highlighted in yellow, where it's, because somebody else threw
Additions
that
and
out there, that
renovations.
it applies to
Big time.
additions and renovations. It does not.
Right.
It does not apply to additions or renovations. What will apply to the addition or the renovation is the codes that were in place when the current energy code will apply to any additions and renovations. But that's the current building code.
And what about commercial? I can't remember.
Commercial was the same thing. It did
Excluded,
not
right?
apply to,
Yeah.
to the best of my knowledge, it did not apply to additions and renovations.
That's what they said in that
So-
meeting that we had.
The Finance Committee made that vote. We had a member short that night. I'm more than willing to take it up and re-vote it tonight if you want. But we're three. We know that, and actually it would be unfair to Bill, because Bill was the
Bill
opposing.
was the opposing.
Bill was the opposing vote. So
I'll leave it.
I don't think it would be right to change it. Everybody's okay with that? Article 17. The grant program was also, after a lot of discussion and after a lot of work, we put it together, and that has been forwarded. That vote was taken, so I don't believe we need to take this up again. We'll do it again upstairs briefly, but that was voted. Let me find this. I'm gonna lose the piece of paper.
Remember when we voted?
Yeah, the little piece of paper that's got all the, what we did stuff on it. You're kidding me.
It was on March 5th.
Thank you.
You want mine?
What was the, what was the vote? March 5th? I just had this in my hand.
The other side. It's right at the very bottom. On the other side. The top.
600. So I'm just gonna leave that in there as 600. Moving right along, money petition articles. Now, the intent of this is not to not have anyone get this, but the recommendation that I would make, and this is just my opinion, is that we would not back the money petition articles in the hopes of, and we'll know that because Article 17 comes first. So if the town meeting approves the grant program, then it will make moot Article 18. And I think we've discussed this when we were talking about Article 17, that even though we have established a $5,000 cap on the grant program, because Shane Gives Thanks has asked for 6, that we would adjust that cap for that group for that year, for this year. So essentially, everybody that is in Article 18 is going to receive the grant. Unless they come to us and tell us that they're gonna take $6,000 and spend 5 of it in Rochester, which is certainly not the case, we're gonna go ahead and give them the grant. So that's fair. The other way that this can go is that the town can vote to give the grant program a go, then they can come back and they can also vote yes on the Article 18 money articles, and then we'll begin a new grant program the following year, because this money would be for this year. So there's several different ways to go with it, but my recommendation is that we take no vote. I believe that's the best way to do it, I think. No vote on Article 18 with the explanation that, you know, I just expressed. But I will be more than happy to.
So it's called no action.
No action,
No
thank you.
action.
And there's still no requirement for them to actually show us until they put in for the next year grant.
That's right, and if the town votes to give them the money on the grant on Article 18, they can walk away with the check and do whatever they've been doing, there's no oversight. There's no oversight in that if the town approves Article 18. The only way they're gonna be oversight is if they approve the grant program and we administer it.
But if the town votes for 17, does that just make 18 mute?
Well, that's if the town also votes no on 18 in order to fund it through Article 17 in the grant program. It's right now, it's
Okay,
two
still
separate
gotta vote
articles.
on-
They
we
could
still
still
gotta vote
vote
on it,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
Okay.
They could still vote yes on Article 18, and we don't have a grant program to start until the following year.
Check.
So, everybody okay with no action, or do we want to take a
Yes.
vote on that, or
You would take a vote on no action.
no action? Motion?
Motion to take no
Discussion.
action on
18.
Article 18?
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded to take no action on Article 18. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0, no action.
The next article is Article 28.
Wait, you don't want us to get involved in wood processing?
Solar.
You can do the,
Invasive
Oh,
species.
please.
What page?
I have 45.
I'm still at 26. Glad you said that.
Yeah, there's a lot of zoning and
There's some
Concom
conservation
stuff that has too
commission
many
stuff in there
pages.
too.
It needs to be shortened down. I mean, they're certainly not saving trees. Mr. Allen Jermaine.
Look at me, I didn't rewrite the bylaws, but I will give Savory Moore, I tip my hat. He worked very hard in trying to make the changes to the bylaws make sense. I give him a lot of credit for that, that's a hard job.
And then what we go down to, like 2 pages is what the final was voted?
Yeah, we got it down. Well, this is only so big because it shows the existing language and the crossouts and the,
So Article 28 is a tax on marijuana.
that's pretty straight up. 3%. Is that all we can get?
Wow, you're
That's what
usually
I
a
was
little bit more
wondering.
verbose.
I just, the people voted to legalize marijuana, so it's their choice.
This 3% tax on marijuana is the maximum, I assume.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Now, this is in addition
That
to
was-
the tax.
It's 230, but
Yeah, I thought it was way up, around 20.
Oh, no, 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 no.
That's what the town was charging up north. The one the first open.
I don't think so.
okay.
There was a
Interesting, tax
3.
on cigarettes is huge, but tax on.
Was that
marijuana is
part of their
2%.
site assignment where they got an additional component? That might be a different piece.
Yeah, it could be, but I could have sworn they said something about 20% and then plus the town got a little bit more.
I
So I'm
think,
not sure what the state was.
I think
I know it
that
was
there
a
was
lot
a
of money.
3.5% number in there that the state takes and is supposed to give back to the town eventually somehow through something, and then a 3% was the max that we could charge as like an add-on.
What do the local dealers charge?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't smoked pot since my high school year. That would have been
Well, that-
1974, so you can do the math.
Yeah.
I think it's left your system.
It has.
You can pass your CDL test.
I think I can. And I have
But
several times.
Why don't we just table this?
Yeah, I was just gonna
I
say,
make a
just to
motion
double
to
check.
table Article 28.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to table Article 28. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Did you want to take action on Article 2?
This one's 2.
which is the original, the CPC article for the new recreation complex behind Town Hall.
It really is community preservation.
And the only reason I'm saying it's expenditures of funds.
Yeah.
It is a CPC article, but it is expenditures of funds, it's your call.
On,
I would prefer not to, only because it's not listed there, and I don't want CPC thinking we're trying to hone in on their game.
Okay.
We could perhaps set it up next year so that, actually, I have a whole handbook that I'm gonna be printing that gets very involved in the finances and the financial responsibilities of the finance committee. And it really defines it. And where we're in line, where we're out of line, what is our business, what's none of our business. So I'm gonna be putting that, it's like an 86-page book, printed on both sides. And it's, they don't offer it in print, I have to download it.
You could just send it to us online.
I could do that too, but then you'd have to print it,
No, I would just read it online.
but you wouldn't, so then you wouldn't have it with you. You'd be looking at your phone. That's not.
No, I'd just bring my laptop if I had it. Save a tree, Alan.
Save a tree. I went to Staples the other day and bought paper. I think that's all we had. Our next meeting is in about
20 minutes? 25
half an
minutes?
hour. Oh, we need a motion to table the minutes, because I didn't print them, I don't have them. I'm so sorry.
I make a motion to table the minutes.
I know I forgot
The
something.
ones that he didn't bring.
The March 5th.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to table the minutes of March 5th. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
do we have another meeting coming up after tonight?
Yeah, upstairs.
No, I mean after that one.
No,
You don't know what I'm thinking of after that one, John? Isn't there usually the last minute,
If there's any changes.
Just before the
right
town
before
just
the
before the
meeting.
town meeting?
Yeah, I mean,
We
but
got
when-
that.
unless something changes, I think after tonight it should be pretty much wrapped up.
Yeah.
You know, you could always tentatively schedule one, night of town meeting at 5 o'clock and just cancel it.
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
Well, town meeting is at 6:30, am I correct?
Yes.
Days to-
Town meeting is at
April
6:30 on the
22nd.
22nd, so why don't we schedule a 5:30 finance committee meeting for that night, and if there are no changes, we'll just cancel.
Okay.
Typically, there's usually some last-minute wording or something like that that just needs a real fast explanation and a vote, and I think last year's meeting lasted like a half an hour or something like that, was all done, so.
Okay.
And I may as well, I will not be there, so
You have to be there.
I can do it from home.
You can.
Okay, we'll do it on the video. You can see me with my pirate's patch on.
All right, 5:30?
I have my little sword hat, sitting up in bed trying.
Yes.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.